The bright morning sun reflected off the rows of cars parked outside Harper Auto Repair. Ethan Harper wiped grease from his hands and glanced at the clock hanging above the garage door. It was only 9 a.m., but he'd already repaired 2 vehicles and answered a dozen phone calls. Life as a single dad never slowed down. Every morning followed the same routine. Wake up, make breakfast, get his 8-year-old daughter Lily ready for school, drop her off, then rush straight to garage. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. And after losing his wife years earlier, Ethan had learned to focus on what mattered most. Lily, everything he did was for her. Every extra hour, every difficult customer, every late payment, every sacrifice. The small garage wasn't fancy, but it had a strong reputation across town. People trusted Ethan because he was honest. If a repair wasn't necessary, he'd say so. If a cheaper solution existed, he'd recommend it. That honesty kept customers returning year after year. As Ethan tightened a bolt under the hood of a pickup truck, his phone buzzed. The screen displayed one name, Megan, his older sister. Ethan groaned. That could only mean trouble. He answered, "Morning. Don't sound so excited." Megan laughed. "What do you want?" "I've got good news. Whenever you say that, my life gets worse." She ignored him. "I found you a date." Ethan immediately rolled his eyes. "No, you haven't even heard anything." "Still no." "Ethan, it's been years." "I'm busy." "That's your answer for everything." "It's a good answer." Megan sighed dramatically. "You're 36, not 96. "I'm working." "You always are." "I'm hanging up." Before he could end the call, Megan spoke quickly. "Saturday. Lunch. 1 meeting. That's all." "No. Please." "No." "For me? Definitely no." She laughed. "I already gave her your number." Ethan froze. "You what?" "Bye." The call disconnected. He stared at the phone, then at the ceiling, then back at the phone. Megan is impossible. A customer nearby chuckled. "Family? The worst kind." The customer nodded knowingly. That afternoon, Ethan forgot about the blind date, at least until another text arrived. Unknown number. "Hi, Ethan. Megan says we're meeting Saturday. Looking forward to it. Charlotte." He stared at the message, then put the phone face down. No reply. No interest. No enthusiasm. Dating wasn't part of his plans. His life was already full. Garage. Bills. Lily. Repeat. Simple. Predictable. Safe. The next morning arrived with clear blue skies. Business was steady. Customers came and went throughout the day. Just before noon, a silver luxury SUV rolled slowly into the parking lot. The engine sounded rough. The vehicle stopped near the garage entrance. A woman stepped out. She wore business clothes and dark sunglasses. Confident. Professional. The type of person who probably managed companies instead of fixing cars. Ethan grabbed a diagnostic scanner and approached. "Morning. What's happening with it?" The woman removed her sunglasses. "I'm hoping you can tell me." For a second, Ethan noticed something unusual. Her eyes didn't focus directly on him. They seemed slightly distant, subtle, but noticeable. She continued calmly. "The engine started making strange noises 20 minutes ago." Ethan nodded. "No problem. Let's take a look." He opened the hood. Within minutes, he identified the issue. A damaged belt. Not a major repair. Definitely not expensive. Many garages would have exaggerated the problem. Ethan never did. "Good news," he said. The woman smiled. "I like good news. You don't need a major repair." "Really? Really?" She looked relieved. "Thank goodness." While Ethan worked, she sat on a nearby bench outside the garage. After a few minutes, Lily's school called. Her afternoon activity had been canceled. She needed to be picked up early. Ethan frowned. Normally, he'd finish the repair first. Today, timing wasn't cooperating. The woman overheard the conversation. "Everything okay?" "My daughter's school needs someone to collect her." "Sounds important." "It is." He looked at the unfinished repair, then at the clock, then back at the SUV. The woman smiled kindly. "Go." "What?" Get your daughter. I can't leave a customer's car half-finished. I can wait. Ethan hesitated. Most customers would complain. This woman didn't. Are you sure? Absolutely. He thanked her and drove to the school. 20 minutes later, he returned with Lily. The little girl hopped out of the truck, carrying her backpack. As always, she immediately started talking, without taking a single breath. Dad, guess what happened today? What happened? Mr. Carter accidentally called himself Mom during attendance. Ethan laughed. That's impressive. It was very funny. Then Lily noticed a woman sitting near the SUV. The woman smiled warmly. Hello. Lily smiled back. Hi. Something surprising happened next. The woman pulled a small white cane from beside the bench. Lily looked confused. Ethan suddenly understood. The woman wasn't partially distracted. She was blind, completely blind. Yet she carried herself with remarkable confidence. No self-pity, no hesitation, no frustration, just calm confidence. Lily walked closer. Are you blind? Ethan immediately cringed. Lily! But the woman laughed. It's okay. Then she answered. Yes, I am. Cool. Both adults blinked. Cool. Ethan asked. Lily nodded. You do everything without seeing. The woman smiled. Most things. That's amazing. The woman laughed again. Thank you. For the next few minutes they talked. And Ethan noticed something unexpected. Charlotte was easy to talk to. Funny, intelligent, relaxed. Nothing like the intimidating corporate executive he'd imagined. When the repair was complete, Charlotte asked how much she owed. Ethan quoted the actual price. A very reasonable amount. There was a brief silence. Then Charlotte smiled. That's less than half what another garage estimated. Ethan shrugged, because they were wrong. Or dishonest. Maybe. She nodded. I appreciate honesty. As she prepared to leave, her phone rang. She answered. A serious expression crossed her face. Tomorrow? Pause. I understand. Another pause. Then she sighed. Fine. I'll be there. The call ended. Something about her expression changed. Not fear, not worry, more like disappointment. You okay? Ethan asked. Charlotte forced a smile. Just work. Tough day? You could say that. She stepped toward the SUV, then stopped, then turned toward Ethan. Can I ask something? Sure. You're Ethan Harper, right? Yes. A small smile appeared, the kind that suggested she knew something he didn't. Interesting. What is? But Charlotte simply opened the vehicle door. You'll find out Saturday. Then she drove away. Ethan stood frozen, confused. Lily looked up at him. Dad. Yeah, I think she's nice. Ethan watched the SUV disappear down the road. For some reason, he had a feeling his daughter was right. What he didn't know was that Saturday's blind date would reveal a secret connection neither of them expected, and it would completely change both of their lives. Saturday arrived with bright sunshine and clear skies. Ethan stood in front of his bedroom mirror, adjusting his shirt. He hated every second of it. Dating felt awkward, unnecessary, and completely outside his comfort zone. From the hallway, Lily peeked through the door. You look nervous. I'm not nervous. You've changed shirts 3 times. Ethan sighed, maybe a little nervous. Lily grinned. Good. Good. You need practice. Thanks for the support. I'm helping. Ethan laughed despite himself. 30 minutes later, he parked outside a small restaurant in the town center. The place was popular for weekend lunches. Nothing fancy, just comfortable. Exactly the kind of place Megan would choose. As Ethan walked inside, he immediately spotted his sister, sitting at a table. Beside her sat a woman, a familiar woman. Charlotte. Ethan stopped walking. Charlotte smiled. I was wondering how long it would take. Megan nearly choked on her drink. You two know each other? Ethan stared. She's the customer for my garage. Charlotte nodded. And he's a mechanic who fixed my SUV. Megan looked delighted. This is amazing. It's suspicious, Ethan replied. I prefer amazing. Charlotte laughed. The sound immediately relaxed the tension. Megan stood. "Well, my work here is done." "No," Ethan said quickly. "Yes." Charlotte smiled. "She's escaping." Megan grabbed her purse. "You two can thank me later." Then she disappeared before either could stop her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Charlotte broke the silence. So, we've technically already had our first meeting." "I suppose we have." "And you survived." "Barely." She laughed again. The waitress arrived. Orders were placed. Conversation slowly became easier. Unlike most first dates, there wasn't any pressure. No pretending. No rehearsed stories. No trying to impress each other. They simply talked. About work. About life. About funny customers. About everyday things. Charlotte asked about the garage. Ethan asked about her job. "I'm a consultant." "For what?" "Businesses." Ethan nodded. "Sounds complicated." "It usually is." "What exactly do you do?" Charlotte smiled. "I solve expensive problems." "That sounds stressful." "It pays the bills." As lunch continued, Ethan noticed something surprising. Charlotte listened carefully, not just politely, genuinely. Every story, every detail, every joke. Many people waited for their turn to speak. Charlotte actually listened. It was refreshing. Then the conversation turned toward family. Charlotte asked about Lily. A smile immediately appeared on Ethan's face. "She's my entire world." "I can tell." "That obvious?" "Very." Ethan laughed. "She's smart, brave, stubborn." "Like her father?" "Unfortunately." Charlotte smiled. "Sounds like you're doing a good job." The compliment caught him off guard. Most people didn't realize how difficult single parenting could be. But Charlotte seemed to understand. Not because she pitied him, because she respected him. That meant more than she knew. A few minutes later, Charlotte's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. The smile vanished. "I need to take this." "No problem." She stepped outside. Through the restaurant window, Ethan watched her expression change. Serious, focused, concerned. The call lasted several minutes. When she returned, she seemed distracted. "Bad news?" Ethan asked. "A complicated situation." "Work." "Work." She hesitated, then changed the subject. Ethan noticed but didn't push. Everyone had private challenges. Lunch eventually ended. Outside the restaurant, they stood near the sidewalk. The date had gone better than Ethan expected. Much better. Charlotte smiled. "I'm glad Megan ignored your objections." "Don't tell her that." "Why?" "Because she'll never stop." "Fair point." They both laughed. Then Charlotte surprised him. "Would you and Lily like to visit a community event tomorrow?" "What kind of event?" "A charity fair." Ethan shrugged. "Depends." "There are games." Lily would approve. "Food." "Definitely interested." "A pet adoption section." Ethan smiled. "You just guaranteed Lily says yes." "Excellent." The next day arrived warm and sunny. The charity fair was crowded. Families filled the park. Children ran between booths. Live music played near the center lawn. Lily immediately loved it. Within minutes, she had won a stuffed bear and eaten half a giant cookie. Charlotte arrived shortly afterward. She carried herself through the crowd with remarkable confidence. A guide, cane in one hand, a smile on her face. Lily ran over. "Charlotte." "Hello, Lily." "Come see my bear." "I'd love to." The three spent hours exploring the fair together. For Ethan, something felt strange. Not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Happy, relaxed, normal. For years his world had been limited to responsibilities. Bills, work, schedules, deadlines. Now, he was simply enjoying a day. And somehow Charlotte fit naturally into it. Then everything changed. Near the center of the park stood a large stage. A local charity organization was holding an award ceremony. People gathered around. A host stepped onto the stage. "Today we're recognizing one of the region's most influential business leaders." The crowd applauded. Ethan barely paid attention until he heard a familiar name, Charlotte Bennett. His head snapped upward. The host continued, CEO of Bennett Holdings. Ethan froze. The crowd erupted into applause. Charlotte looked uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Lily blinked. That's your name. Charlotte sighed. Yes. Ethan stared. CEO? Charlotte nodded. Yes. Of Bennett Holdings? Another nod. Ethan knew the company. Everyone did. It owned office buildings, technology firms, construction projects, and dozens of businesses throughout the country. The company was worth hundreds of millions. Possibly more. His mind raced. Consultant? That wasn't exactly a lie. But it definitely wasn't the full story. Charlotte turned toward him. I was going to tell you. When... She smiled weakly, preferably before a public announcement. The host called her name again. The audience cheered. Charlotte sighed. I should probably go up there. Ethan nodded slowly. Probably. She walked onto the stage. The crowd applauded loudly. As she accepted the award, Ethan stood speechless. The woman he'd met at the garage. The woman who laughed with Lily. The woman who waited patiently while he picked up his daughter. The woman sitting across from him at lunch was one of the wealthiest business leaders in the country. Yet, somehow she had never acted like it. Not once. When the ceremony ended, Charlotte returned. Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, she broke the silence. You're angry? I'm surprised. That's better than angry. Why didn't you tell me? She looked down. Because people change when they hear my last name. Ethan considered that. It made sense. People probably treated her differently every day. Some wanted money. Others wanted connections. Others wanted favors. Charlotte continued, You treated me like a normal person. Because you are... A genuine smile appeared on her face. Exactly. Then her expression became serious. Ethan, there's something else you should know. What? Charlotte took a deep breath. The smile vanished completely. The reason I was called into work this weekend isn't just another business problem. Ethan waited. Charlotte's voice lowered. Someone is trying to take control of my company. The words hung in the air. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? It means the biggest challenge of my career has already started. And it's about to affect far more than just me. For the first time since meeting her, Ethan saw a real concern in her expression. And he suddenly realized their story was becoming far more complicated than a simple blind date. The cheerful sounds of the charity fair suddenly felt distant. Children were still laughing. Music was still playing. Families were still enjoying the sunny afternoon. But Ethan's attention remained fixed on Charlotte. Someone is trying to take control of your company? He asked. Charlotte nodded. It's been building for months. Why? Money, power, influence. Ethan folded his arms. Sound exhausting. Charlotte laughed softly. That's one word for it. The smile quickly faded. They don't think I should be CEO. Ethan frowned. Because you're blind? Charlotte hesitated, then nodded. Some people never say it directly, but that's what they mean. Ethan shook his head. That's ridiculous. Charlotte looked toward the crowd. I've spent years proving I can do this job. And some people still judge me before I speak. Lily suddenly appeared beside them carrying a lemonade. They're wrong. Both adults looked down. Lily shrugged. You do everything better than most people. Charlotte smiled. Thank you. I'm serious. Charlotte laughed. I know you are. For the rest of the afternoon, they enjoyed the fair. But Ethan noticed something. Charlotte seemed distracted. Every so often her phone buzzed. Every time she checked it, her expression tightened. Something serious was happening. Something she wasn't fully sharing. As the event ended, Charlotte walked them toward the parking area. Lily climbed into Ethan's truck. Before leaving, Charlotte turned toward him. Would you like to have dinner sometime this week? Ethan smiled. I thought this was already a date. It was. Then yes. Her smile returned. A real smile. The kind that reached her eyes. For the first time all day, she looked genuinely happy. 3 days later, Ethan was working beneath a sedan when an expensive black SUV entered the garage. The vehicle stopped abruptly. 2 men stepped out. Business suits. Serious expressions. The kind of people who clearly weren't there for repairs. Ethan climbed out from beneath the car. "Can I help you?" One of them handed over a business card. "Mr. Harper?" "Yes." "We'd like to discuss Charlotte Bennett." Ethan's expression hardened. "Why?" The second man smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Because she's making a mistake." Ethan instantly disliked him. "What kind of mistake?" "You." Silence. The first man stepped forward. "Charlotte is under enormous pressure, and personal distractions aren't helping." Ethan stared. "Did you seriously drive here to tell me not to date someone?" The men exchanged glances. Then the second man spoke. "You're a mechanic." Ethan crossed his arms. "Last time I checked. She's the CEO of a multinational company." There it was. The judgment, the arrogance, the assumption. Ethan had dealt with people like this his entire life. People who measured worth using job titles and bank accounts. He pointed toward the garage entrance. "Leave." The men blinked. "Excuse me." "I said leave." The second man frowned. "You don't understand the situation." "No." Ethan stepped closer. "You don't understand mine." The garage became silent. Several customers watched from nearby. Ethan continued. "I don't care how much money Charlotte has. I don't care how important you think you are. And I definitely don't care what either of you thinks about me." The first man grabbed his colleague's arm. "Let's go." The second man looked furious. But eventually both returned to their SUV. Moments later they were gone. Ethan stood watching the road. Something was definitely wrong. That evening Charlotte called. "I heard what happened." Ethan wasn't surprised. "Your people work fast." "They are my people." "Fair enough." Charlotte sounded frustrated. "I apologize." "You didn't send them." "No." "Then don't apologize." A long silence followed. Then Charlotte spoke quietly. "It's getting worse." "What is?" "The fight for the company." Ethan sat down. "Tell me." Charlotte took a deep breath. "My father founded Bennett Holdings." Ethan listened carefully. "When he passed away, ownership transferred according to his wishes." "You." "Me." "What changed?" "Some board members believe someone else should lead." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Charlotte laughed bitterly. "Mostly themselves." That answer explained everything. Greed. It usually did. Charlotte continued. "They've been searching for a reason to remove me. And now they think they found one." "What reason?" Another pause. Then Charlotte said something unexpected. "They've discovered a project my father kept secret." Ethan blinked. "Secret project?" "Yes." "What kind of project?" Charlotte's voice softened. "The kind that could change thousands of lives." Now Ethan was curious. "What are you talking about?" "My father built a trust before he died." "A trust?" "Yes." The excitement in her voice grew. "He wanted to help struggling single parents." Ethan sat upright. Single parents. That immediately got his attention. Charlotte continued. "The trust owns land, community centers, education programs, affordable housing projects." Ethan listened in stunned silence. The scale sounded enormous. "My father believed families deserved opportunities. So why keep it secret?" "Because he didn't want publicity. And now," Charlotte smiled, "now I found the documents." Ethan finally understood. The board wants control. Exactly. If they take over the company, they gain influence over the trust. And if you keep control, we launched the programs exactly as my father intended. Ethan nodded slowly. Now the battle made sense. This wasn't only about business. It was about thousands of families, thousands of children, thousands of futures. A few days later, Charlotte invited Ethan to company headquarters. The building was enormous. Glass walls, modern architecture, hundreds of employees. Ethan felt completely out of place. Charlotte greeted him in the lobby. "You came. You sounded like you needed support." Her smile appeared immediately. "I did." They entered a conference room. Several executives were already seated. The atmosphere felt tense. Very tense. One executive stood. A man named Richard Langley. Tall, polished, confident. Too confident. He smiled toward Charlotte. Ready for today's vote? Charlotte remained calm. Absolutely. Ethan watched carefully. Richard clearly expected victory. The meeting began. Financial reports were presented, documents reviewed, arguments exchanged. Then Charlotte requested permission to speak. The room fell silent. She stood, calm, professional, composed, and for the next 20 minutes she completely changed the atmosphere. She explained her father's trust, the housing projects, the education programs, the support centers, the opportunities they would create. By the time she finished, several executives looked stunned. Others looked inspired. Richard looked worried, very worried. The vote followed shortly afterward. One by one, board members cast their decisions. The room became silent. Finally, the results were announced. Charlotte had won, not by one vote, not by two, by a landslide. The room erupted with applause. Richard's expression collapsed. Years of planning had failed. Charlotte remained calm. But Ethan noticed tears forming, not tears of sadness. Relief, pride, victory. After the meeting ended, she walked outside with Ethan. The afternoon sun shined across the city skyline. For several moments, neither spoke. Then Charlotte smiled. "We did it! You did it!" She shook her head. "No." Ethan looked confused. Charlotte turned toward him. "You reminded me why the trust matters." "What?" "You. Lily. Every family's struggling to build a better future." Ethan smiled. "Your father would be proud." Charlotte's eyes filled with emotion. "I hope so." Then she surprised him. She reached into her bag and removed a folder. "What is that?" "The first community housing project." Ethan opened it, then froze. The location, the address, the development plans. They were all familiar, very familiar. His eyes widened. "This is my neighborhood." Charlotte smiled. "Exactly. The first project would be built in the community where Ethan and Lily lived, the place where hardworking families needed help most, the place where their story began. And neither of them realized yet that this victory was only the beginning of a much bigger future they would build together.